virtually non-existent. Mr. Smith is retaliatory towards staff members and community members that do not agree with him. You all are facing yet another highly contentious board meeting tonight. Why? After our December meeting, there was the opportunity to let things settle within our district. Instead, Mr. Smith chose to throw gasoline on the fire once again by asking for a hefty raise on a contract that is not mature in a less than transparent manner. Is it the public and a band of bullies that have gotten you into this situation? Or could it be his leadership? And I believe that you all have relied too heavily on him and decisions that landed us here. Please carefully consider your decisions tonight. Thank you.
Gary?
Yep.
More formal?
You're about to discuss Superintendent Smith's evaluation. One of the most important jobs you have as trustees is hiring and retaining a superintendent. Collectively, you are Superintendent Smith's boss, and you should be telling him what you desire, the paths to take, and your goals and mission for him at this once great school. From what I've seen recently, it would seem the current roles are reversed, and Superintendent Smith is telling you what to do. Please take back control. The best way for you to take control is in the evaluation you're about to discuss. Does muting me at the April 14th, 2021 meeting in violation of my public access and saying I was harassing him seem satisfactory? Does it seem satisfactory telling Daniel Pewitt, a stakeholder who had an agenda item on the April 14th, 2021 meeting, that he was bullying Superintendent Smith when Mr. Pewitt was simply discussing his approved agenda item? Does ranting at the October 21 meeting about being fed up with parents from the district contacting other agencies seem satisfactory? Does stating he is tired of folks copying the Department of Justice about civil rights, threatening that Superintendent Smith is violating their civil rights seem satisfactory? Does singling out Roberta Held for filming in a meeting and stating he was glad she was filming as these are the people she's sending after him seem satisfactory? And ending with, I'm sure you're proud of yourself. It is the public's right to film as long as there's no disruption in a meeting. Superintendent Smith accused Ms. Held of organizing people. Ms. Held offered to talk to Superintendent Smith one-on-one, and he responded, yeah, whatever. We have it on tape if you would like to hear that. Does that sound satisfactory to you? Stakeholders have the freedom to inform and organize people. Stifling stakeholder input is unsatisfactory. Superintendent Smith said he was done with all the threats. Does it really seem satisfactory that Superintendent Smith interprets stakeholder participation as threats? Does commenting about Brandy Lights in public seem satisfactory? Not only did Superintendent Smith state her position, he continued on with baseless comments about what Ms. Lights may or may not have said. Completely unsatisfactory. How about no reporting from Cayucos School at the Cayucos Citizens Advisory Council meeting? There is a standing item on their agenda, and in looking at all the meetings and agendas for 2021, there is not one single report from Cayucos Elementary. Does this meet the requirement in Superintendent Smith's contract that, quote, superintendent shall establish and maintain an appropriate community relations, end quote? What appropriate community relations does Superintendent Smith participate in? The outcome of your evaluation has ramifications, fiscally and personally. I encourage you to come to a decision on your evaluation based on what is best for the 172 students at this school. Take back control of this school.
And we have Erica Torres also want to speak.
I do know Mr. Smith's not here, some of my comments are directed directly to him to allow open communication. I'm not sure if that's going to be addressed in the meeting. We'll be participating during this meeting tonight. I hope that you will, because again, I do believe in transparent communication. So I'm going to read my letter as written, assuming he was going to be here tonight. My name is Erica Torres. I'm a parent and community member here at Cayucos. I have a child that goes here. In the nearly 2 years since March of 2020, it's been an extraordinarily difficult time for school employees of all levels, including Mr. Smith. I'm definitely not discrediting how difficult the time has been. I'd like to add, Mr. Smith, that I find myself in an awkward position speaking out tonight, as I'm also your neighbor in addition to being a parent at Cayucos Elementary School. Prior to the Let Them Breathe debacle, I had never had anything but friendly interactions with Mr. Smith and his wife. Mr. Smith, I want you to know that I have no personal ill will towards you as an individual, and I'm not out to get you, although I imagine this is the way in which you may feel. Rather, I do have grave concerns about your professional capacity as superintendent of our school and your ability to lead our school district at this time. President Schuler and Cayucos Elementary School trustees, as you're contemplating Mr. Smith's performance evaluation tonight during closed session, I would ask that you reflect upon the following questions. Number one, has Mr. Smith's leadership helped unite or divide our school community in this highly divisive time? He has demonstrated the ability to keep his personal beliefs. Has he demonstrated the ability to keep his personal politics and beliefs separate from performing his publicly funded job? Or is he allowing his personal views and beliefs to factor into decisions that are being made at our school? Secondly, I'd like for you to consider, does Mr. Smith's leadership foster an environment of employee trust, inspiration, and collaboration? Or does it instill fear of retaliation and contribute to sagging morale currently being reported by staff, as well as the loss of two beloved Cayucos Elementary School employees? Thirdly, I would like for you to consider, does Mr. Smith conduct himself with the professionalism that we should expect from our leaders? I would like for you to reflect upon his behavior at the now infamous October 13th, 2021 school board meeting as a reference point for you as you ponder this question. Lastly, Mr. Smith, I would like to address you directly. When the school board passed Let Them Breathe with greatly insufficient community engagement and made our school look like a joke throughout San Luis Obispo County, we attempted on numerous occasions to engage you and the board directly to help repair the damage that had been done and the trust that had been lost. We attempted to engage you in the utmost professional manner, yet our requests were met with annoyance, defensiveness, disdain, gaslighting, and claims of victimhood. Mr. Smith, when you finally made it clear to Roberta Held and I in an email on August the 20th, 2021, that you were, and I quote, not willing to commit any more of my time to the Let Them Breathe resolution, despite the continued community outrage and division, that was clear to me that you were no longer listening and you'd lost my confidence.
We have one more speaker, and that is Susan Mathias. Remember, sorry, I should have said it before. I know you were there at the end there, but you have 3 minutes and you're on the timer. So
The correspondence over the past several months clearly shows that your stakeholders don't approve of the job our superintendent is doing. At least read the correspondence. That correspondence should also be read into the record as a part of the review you're about to undertake. Cayucos School District.
thank you very much. We will adjourn for now. We go into closed session. Come back.
Nothing to report out in closed session.
All right, so we just did closed session. We have nothing to report out of that. So thank you for your patience. We are back to public comment. So we have no correspondence that's not in the agenda right now, and I'd like to.
I'm Ellen Sheffer. I know several of you. I work for the County Office of Education and serve as an advisor and consultant with boards throughout the county and superintendents as well. So I'm happy to be here at the meeting tonight. I got a little behind during the visiting school boards during COVID, but I know I've met several of you online over the last couple of years, so I'm happy to be here and do anything I can to help Pete and Liz in this unusual meeting with folks missing and a big meeting for the new president. So, thank you very much. Good to see you.
Okay, we'll see what we can do about the audio.
Is that on?
That wasn't on. All right. At this point, the agenda, the board welcomes comments on matters of the district interest. The board will listen, but cannot engage in discussion or take action on the items not listed on the agenda. All public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. You may not cede any remaining time to any other speaker. We ask that the other public observers in the room remain respectful and do not interrupt the individual giving public comment, because this is the time for the board to listen, and it is very difficult to do so if there are multiple individuals speaking at the same time. As board president, I will maintain the order of this meeting and may issue warnings of removal or of disruptive individuals. We will call by order of what we received, and our first public comment for 4-1 is Ron Wilson.
Three minutes, are you kidding? Oh, wait.
All right, it's on, so we're starting. Great.
First of all, I wanted to, again, thank you for your service. I know there's some ups and downs right now, but it's normal. Second of all, I wanted to thank you for going to the 7 o'clock meeting. I think we had a little bigger turnout, and that was one of the purposes for that. And again, thank you for considering it, making this move. Second of all, third, I noticed today that the minutes were posted differently, like they had been 2.5 years ago, where it's a unadopted or draft of the minutes, so people can see them with the agenda rather than waiting till you guys approve them the following and being posted the following month. That's the proper way to do it, actually, under the law. And then the agenda, the minutes were starting to regain their, what's it called, a brief summary of the item. Now we can follow along, kind of like we're here, you know, and not have to look at a recording or we can go right to an item. And again, I appreciate you guys making that change. I think it'll engage even more people, that they'll see what your discussions are and how you're making your decisions, and takes out a lot of the mystery. And lastly, I just wanted to reiterate, I think we're moving towards it, the 4 legs of the Brown Act, working hard for accessibility, participation. We're making a step here with the meeting times, and then on the other end of it, the transparency and accountability, and kind of keeping those in focus. And then I think it benefits everybody, and that trickles down to the kids. They're going to get the benefit from this. So anyway, thanks again, and probably have 3 other things, but my time's probably.
Yeah, a minute. Next speaker will be Jeff Held. Jeff, see you, sir.
Good. Hello, board. My name is Jeff Held. I have a couple students here at Cayucos Elementary School, and I am alumni. Thank you for what you do, of course, again. And I just want you to know that it's appropriate for you, of course, to seek advice and guidance from the superintendent, but to continue to use his input as gospel is wrong. Trustee Castillo has already publicly pledged his unwavering confidence in everything his friend Superintendent Smith supports. The rest of you need to think independently, seek other sources for ideas, and occasionally, as uncomfortable as it may be for you, disagree with Mr. Smith occasionally. Like tonight. Thank you.
Nicole Tamayo.
thank you. I'm not even sure if like what I've prepared is the right thing or not, because I'm not quite sure, like the main reason for all of this, because I might be not as informed as I should be, but I'm just gonna go ahead and read what I have written, and if it's completely off the topic, then I'm sorry. So I was gonna go for it and go. I actually am thankful for all of you for everything you've done, and I do support Scott, and I know that in these times having a backbone is very difficult, but I think it's, I feel grateful that we have someone that is supporting parent choice. And so I just kind of prepared some reasons why I feel like I'm on his side, and I don't know, I'm sorry again if it's not appropriate, I'm just gonna kind of go through what I've written. From the research that I've done and many months of it, right now the CDC and California Public Health have been pretty much wrong on nearly every mitigation effort: social distancing, masking, closing schools, shutting down businesses, over sanitizing, and our kids have become collateral damage. California and New York have the strictest rules, and California has been in a state of emergency the longest. And yet both states are worse off today with COVID than 3 states like Florida, because they refuse to focus on saving lives and instead focus on controlling them. And just a few like of the data from Monday is, if you look at the 7-day averages across the board, Florida, California, and New York, you have, like, for example, for, I'm just going to go through it from California, New York, and cases. We have 74,000 for California, 74,000 for New York, 66,000 for Florida. Deaths 78, 133, and 26. Fully vaxxed 66.9, 72%, and then 63.9. So clearly there are 3 states that are doing better in almost every area than we are. We've been in the state of emergency the longest of any state in the United States. So doesn't seem to be data-wise that our state has really shown success with their mitigation efforts. I also think that K-12 protocols have been discriminatory towards the unvaxxed. So there's no evidence to show that a vaccinated child versus a healthy unvaccinated child will spread the virus less or carry the virus a shorter time. There is no data supporting that at all. However, being overweight induces higher viral loads and takes longer to clear the virus. And yet we don't tell overweight kids to quarantine longer, stay home longer, impose any type of discriminatory things towards them, because it's discrimination. So it's not like we have data supporting that being overweight as a kid or having, it's creating a harder time when it comes to this. But again, no evidence to show as far as transmission, viral load, that there's a difference between a healthy unvaccinated child versus a vaccinated child. The percent of deaths of positive COVID cases in 0 to 5-year-olds in the 21-month study is 0.00866,343. So we're still looking at kids being a very, that was my last thing. So
Okay.
thank you, and just want to say again that I do support a very silent majority who supports Scott. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Next speaker is Alicia Enns.
Should we be covering this because masked people are removing their masks to then speak on this speaker? Do we have a way to clean it? No? Okay. So my name is Alicia Enns. I am from Cayucos. I went to Cayucos Elementary School, Norway High, Cuesta, Cal Poly. I'm a Californian and I am an American. We live in the land of the free and home of the brave, not the land of the obedient and home of the slaves. And it's very concerning that we continue to move into this direction of full government control without any data supporting what's going on, as Nicole just provided. So I'm going to keep it pretty short and say I support Scott. He's the only person who has vocally stood between the state and my children. They're my children. I do not give them to the government. I do not have them for the government to raise, and they don't get to make decisions for my family.
Emerald McCloy. Oh, sorry.
Hi, thank you all for being here and allowing us to speak. My name is Emerald McLeod. I just wanted to say that I support Scott and school choice for our children. I do not support the vaccine for the children at this time. There's not enough medical evidence to show that it is doing anything for our children at this time. I also wanted to comment about someone else's comment saying that, you know, we're taking Scott as gospel for what's going on, and I think we're doing that as a whole in this society right now, listening to one voice and the direction of some medical professionals, and there's many medical professionals that do not believe what is going on right now is safe as far as vaccines and masking. And so I just wanted to say that I support Scott, and I thank you to the school board, and I hope that our children can be free from masks very soon, because it's disheartening, and I don't wish sickness on anyone. We've only had 15 hospitalizations in almost 2 years in San Luis County for the children 0 to 17, which is pretty, it's like a 0.003% chance of a child being hospitalized with COVID. So I'm a medical professional, and I believe in some vaccines, but right now there's just not enough medical evidence, and I hope that the school does not support that. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Becca Kelly.
Hi, I'm Becky Kelly. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I am thankful you are all here tonight. Thank you for listening to everyone. And thank you for making these difficult decisions with our kids in mind and our community both. I took some time out today, this afternoon, to read some of the correspondence that was written in about this agenda. And I was amazed. And I learned a lot. And I hope you were able to read through all of them as well. I am currently on a negotiating team at my work, looking at pay inequities, trying to get people in positions to have fair pay with other people within the state. And it's very easy to fight for somebody to get a pay raise when they are very much less paid than other people doing the same job. And then you see sometimes some top heavy management that's getting paid double or more than double what their next employees make. And then you want to say, like, wait, what's going on here? So I hope as contracts come up, and including the teachers' contracts when they come up, that you're looking across the state and making sure everybody's being paid fair for the job they are doing. I also had a comment to make and spoke to a woman tonight that was here that had to leave. Sandra Polini worked for 24 years for the superintendent's office. If you're familiar with her, from 1989 to 1996. During those years, Cayucos had a superintendent that was a shared position with Coast as well. Cayucos paid 30% of her salary. That was Dr. Wallen. At this time, Cayucos has 175 students, and I believe Coast schools have many more than that. It sounds like between Cambridge schools, maybe up to 5 schools, and we have our ones. It just seems unfair. I don't know the details. This is not my thing to really dive deep into, but I hope that you're looking and making sure that our community is paying fairly for the job that our superintendent is doing for us, and not just for the schools in Cambria as well. Okay, thank you for your time tonight.
Our next speaker, Renee Roque.
Hi, my name is Renee Roque, and I'm a mom of a second grader. And thank you so much for being here tonight and listening to everyone. I appreciate everyone's on the boards, everyone's opinions, whether they are in line with mine. I think that having a discussion on both, on all sides, is always important. And I do not want to mask my kids, and I'm not going to vaccinate my kids. But I appreciate those that do want to do those things, and I respect their decisions and their rights. So with that, I do support Scott in his advocacy for parent choice, regardless of a pay raise. And just like the last gal said, I absolutely do hope that you take everything into consideration and that things are fair throughout our area, throughout the county. That only makes sense to me. I know also, just with talking with a few parent friends that I have, I don't have the time, but, anyway, that some of them couldn't make it here, and they do support Scott and his opinion of parent choice. I know they're online, and they may or may not have emailed you as well. But I'm thankful tonight for the kindness so far that has been shared. I saw a really beautiful moment over here with two people, Mike and Roberta, speaking, and I just thought that was the most beautiful thing. All I want is our old Cayucos back, where people were kind to each other and we could have different views, but we could still speak together and make decisions together and be a community. I am in a different situation where I could choose to send my particular daughter to anywhere in San Luis Coastal School District. She has an exorbitant amount of special needs, and I chose to keep her here in Cayucos in this community because of the people that are here that can work together pre-COVID, can work together and talk together and just love and accept each other. And I just want to encourage parents here and community members here to continue that and to dig deep and find that again and be a team. Thank you.
Mike Golan is our next speaker. Mike.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. First, I just want to kind of point out, with no offense to anyone, look at us. Okay, we're outside and we're wearing masks. So the emperor has no clothes, people. I'm pointing it out. If the FDA approves the vaccine for children, God forbid, then Newsom's vaccine mandate will go into effect. It will then be up to individual school districts to enforce this mandate. What one of the board members suggested to me last time I brought this up was that there is nothing you guys can do about it. You have to follow the dictates of the state. The shots are killing people and maiming people. The government and the media are lying to us and covering this information up. If you still think the vaccines are safe and effective, then you need to wake up. Maybe do some research. Those of you who are going to enforce this unjust mandate will be on the wrong side of history. You will be judged harshly for your misdeed. You will be the ones saying, I was just following orders. We all have a moral obligation to disobey unjust orders. So if and when this vaccine mandate comes, do not enforce it. All reasonable people should be at war against this madness. Thank you.
Helen Tomek. Roberta.
Hey, Pete, you have a member up here disparaging other members and calling them goddamn fascists and stuff. Can you address that?
Is
Is
he
it?
talking about me?
No, no, no.
Oh.
It's somebody else, but that's not it's just not an acceptable, respectable behavior.
Let's keep it respectful, everybody. We talked about that earlier, you know, disruptive, we're disruptive, we'll have to ask you to leave, so. Please be courteous to everybody else, make sure everybody gets a chance to speak. And Roberta, you're up. You'll speak on 4-2, right?
Great.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Roberta Held. I'm a parent of Cayucos elementary school students and also one alumni. The last few months have been contentious within our district, to say the least. Each one of you deserves credit for showing up and doing what you believe to be best during these difficult times. I empathize and I understand that in your position, some of the heat you've taken could feel as though it is personal or that you are being attacked in some way. Superintendent Smith, though he's not here tonight, I empathize with him as well. And I can imagine that all of this is incredibly difficult for him. None of this is personal. It's important that the children in our district are served to the best of the Board of Trustees' abilities. You are called trustees for a reason. The leader of our school also needs to ensure that the children in our district are served to the best of their abilities. If our leader is serving the children of our school with everything they have, it sets an excellent example for staff. It's inspirational and sets an excellent example for children. How can an absent leader set an example? There's a possible argument, and I can hear it. Well, a superintendent shouldn't necessarily be on campus. They should be at a district office working on other things. That might be true at larger districts, but in Cayucos, our school is our district office. Our school is not a large district, and one of the things that makes our district special is that our administration has the opportunity to know each child and family. That is an opportunity, not an obligation. And it is part of what has made Cayucos an excellent school in the past. Sharing services with Coast is not working. Our superintendent is not here. That is not surprising, given the size difference between the two districts. Cayucos will always take a back seat, and it is evident that is what is happening. We are experiencing the fallout of a lack of leadership. We are not experiencing fallout because of COVID or because of a mean group of parents or any of the other excuses that I've heard on for that. The board has not been doing their job and holding the superintendent accountable, and the superintendent is missing in action. Sharing the superintendent has been an experiment. It was my understanding that when the experiment began, it was intended to be temporary. It is also an experiment that our district has conducted before. It didn't work then, and it isn't working now. Thank you.
Susan Matthias.
My name is Susan Matthias. The current controversy surrounding the proposed ill-timed pay increase for our superintendent should cause us all to wonder if there are better solutions on how to handle administrative duties here. The experiments with having our own full-time superintendent and then a shared superintendent should show us two things. First, a full-time superintendent is unnecessary for a small one-school district. Given our current setup, it is obviously far less than a half-time position as our superintendent is in charge of at least 4 other schools in that other district he serves. Sharing a superintendent with a larger district is problematic. We've tried this before when we attempted to share Dr. Waller. It became obvious that our loyalties were with a larger district. This is understandable. A larger district means more people to deal with and more demands on your time. For example, 4 times as many principals, 4 times as many teachers, and 4 times as many contracts. You get the idea. How can we be sure that his or her loyalty is Cayucos Elementary? How do we know how much time is really being spent on our district's work? The list of questions goes on and on. I propose that we learn from our past experiments and return to a combined superintendent principal with perhaps an assistant principal who could also double as a language teacher or in some other way enrich the educational experience Cayucos has to offer. Imagine if you had 2 people totally dedicated to this school, working together to satisfy the managerial necessities, but also having time to teach Spanish, French, astronomy, marine biology, enhanced computer skills like coding, or whatever. So our 8th graders are on a level playing field when they enter high school. Perhaps the position could entail being an enrichment coordinator who could go out into the community and tap into the wealth of opportunities that exist in both the private and public sectors and bring them into our school to discuss their areas of expertise. The sky's the limit. I'm sure we all have ideas. Imagine putting Cayucos first. This could cost substantially less than having our current top-heavy arrangement of management that has no value to the actual education of our youth. This sounds much more promising to me than having a part-timer who sets his own hours and his own agenda and is typically only on campus for meetings. I think it's time we all think outside this box we've put ourselves in and do something to promote education rather than administration, something potentially amazing.
Comment during public comment is Erica Torres.
Emailed myself up. Alrighty. Thank you, board members, for your service. It is definitely appreciated. I know it's not an easy job. Reporting school board meetings was a step in the right direction, and I greatly appreciate that. I would like to ask the board at this time to consider allowing public comment for individuals participating in school board meetings via Zoom. Given the high rate of community spread of COVID at this time, this seems like a wise thing to do for those who are immunocompromised or otherwise able or comfortable attending large gatherings in person. Additionally, I personally know of 3 people participating in this meeting tonight via Zoom who would like to make a public comment, but they're unable to as they're at home with COVID. I ask that you please reconsider offering the ability for meeting participants to make public comment via Zoom. Thank you.
That's it for public comment. We move to the approval of minutes. Okay. All right, so the first one is for November. Everybody's read meeting minutes for November.
So we didn't, I can't remember, we didn't post them last time, so
I think they didn't get posted.
Okay.
So we have to do 2 months.
All right, okay. I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 17th, 2021.
I'll second.
Susan Brunel,
Aye.
Val Wright,
Aye.
Steve Dial,
Aye.
Chris Castillo,
Aye.
and Pete Shue.
Aye. We have a motion for the approval of minutes for the last one.
I'll make a motion. Approve meeting minutes December 15th, 2021.
I'll second.
Roll call, Susan Brunel,
Aye.
Val Wright,
Aye.
Steve Dial,
Aye.
Chris Castillo,
Aye.
and Pete Shue.
Aye. Okay, I don't know if everybody's seen it yet. Our next meeting is, our next topic is the opening the hearing for elections by trustee area. If you have not seen them on the agenda, there are packets up here if you'd like to look at them. These are our proposals. Give everybody a moment about that, and if anybody has. Okay, and we're gonna have a talk with our. So the new law states we have to have different districts for each but the trustees. And we have to break our small town into voting districts. A little more explanation. So these are our plans right now that we're looking at.
It's your turn. This is Daniel. He's helped to draw up the plans and he's the one that did the PowerPoint. I know this, he can't come today, but he's on the phone, on the microphone.
What's his title?
Hello, can everyone hear me okay?
Demographer that was hired.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you, and good to be with you this evening. My name is Daniel Phillips, and I am a consultant with National Demographics Corporation, or NDC. And you may recall that I came to present to you, at least virtually I came, earlier in the summer, in August and September, to present to you about the process of transitioning to trustee areas. And so by law, according to this process, there have to be 4 total public hearings. 2 of them have to take place before any draft maps are presented. And so those were the ones we had in the summer. If you flip to page 2 of the presentation, this is under the heading transition process. So we had those hearings and gathered input and gave some information about what this process would entail. Then now that we're in the new calendar year, we moved to the next phase of the process where we actually discuss and consider draft maps. So those were released and posted on your district website 7 days ago on January 5th. And hopefully many of you had the opportunity to review those. And so now tonight, January 12th and February 9th are the 3rd and 4th public hearings. And these are the ones where we can actually discuss and, if necessary, revise the draft maps, as well as discuss the election sequence, which trustee areas would be up in which years. Lastly, there will be a map adoption hearing that will be at the same meeting as the 4th and final public hearing. So there will be a 4th and final public hearing, and then at the same meeting, there will be a separate map adoption hearing at which you will formally choose one of the draft maps as your official map. So that is what the schedule looks like. So if you turn to the next page, page 3, that lays out the rules and guidelines for drawing these trustee areas. There are actually only 3 mandatory requirements, and they are those that come from federal law. The first being that the trustee areas be equal in population. they don't have to be exactly equal, but they should be pretty equal. And when referring to population, we're talking about all people counted by the census. So this would include children, it would include non-citizens, it would include people who may not have much attachment to the area, who may have just recently moved, but and anyone living in the district on April 1st, 2020. So that's our first requirement. The second is to adhere to the Federal Voting Rights Act, but not doing anything that would dilute the voting influence of any racial or ethnic minority group. But on the flip side, not practicing what is called racial gerrymandering, where you make race or ethnicity the only or main consideration when drawing your trustee areas. So those are the only three requirements. Everything else on the right hand side are optional considerations, traditional principles that you may or may not want to consider, such as respecting communities of interest, drawing trustee areas that are compact, that are contiguous, that follow visible boundaries, that respect voters' choices / continuity in office, and accounts for any planned future growth. But I don't believe that you expect any future growth in the near term. But the second to last point is it could be an important consideration, especially as we consider the election sequence options, because if you would like to try to maintain continuity in office, there are differences between the plans as far as what the effect would be to the board's integrity. So if you want to give every incumbent board member the opportunity to run for re-election in their own trustee area, that is a legitimate consideration you may want to prioritize. So if you turn to the next page, you will see the three draft plans laid out, and they are titled the green, orange, and yellow plans. And with each plan, there is a proposed election sequence. Actually, for the yellow plan, there are two, a proposed and an alternative, but the election sequence options are cleaner with the green and orange plans. But when we consider all three plans, they are essentially the same when it comes to total population deviation, just about 5 or 6%, which is well within the threshold of acceptability. And the Latino population would be pretty much the same across the three plans. It says maximum Latino CVAP. That means that's the area with the most, the greatest percentage of their citizen voting age population that is Latino. So we want to consider citizen voting age population, or CVAP, because that's what the courts have said is the most important consideration when it comes to satisfying the Federal Voting Rights Act. But there really is minimal difference between the three plans when it comes to that statistic. So really the most important statistic that differs between the three plans is incumbent pairings. So under the green plan, there would be no incumbents who would be paired in the same trustee area. Under the orange plan, there would be two incumbents, Castillo and Guile, who would be paired in area 2, but both of their terms expire in 2022, so we would have that area up in 2022. And then under the yellow plan, there would be two pairings of incumbents, Castillo and Guile in area 2, and Brownell and Wright in area 4. So that would cause the most disruption to the current board if you were to go for the yellow plan. So the main difference is geographically when it comes to the plans is that when you're considering the green plan, you will see that the boundaries boundary between areas 1 and 2 is along 8th Street, which as long as the addresses that I received are correct, should separate the incumbents Guile and Castillo into separate areas. The downside is you kind of divide up the downtown area closer to Cayucos Drive, and you have to kind of pick up that population by going around areas 1 and 2. And so that's kind of the summary of the green plan. The orange plan does put Castillo and Guile together because they live so close, and that enables you to have a area 1 that is very much focused on downtown Cayucos, and then areas 3, 4, and 5 would fill up the rest of the map to the southeast. Finally, the yellow plan is similar to the orange plan, but it does allow for a purely southeastern area 5 that takes in everything south of Old Creek and east of Highway 1. And area 4 would take the area north of Old Creek and east of the highway. And then area 3 would take in the strand west of the highway and up toward 13th Street. So those are that's kind of the gist of the 3 plans. So my last, the next slide, the second to last slide, gives a table that shows the different election sequence options and kind of lays out the different scenarios. So under the green plan, it's the simplest and cleanest. Every incumbent is in their own area, and those areas would be up when the terms of those incumbents expire. And under the orange plan, there would be 1 vacant area, area 1, and then area 2 would be up in 2022 because both Castillo and Guile have their terms expiring in that year. And finally, under the yellow plan, there would be 2 vacant areas, area 1 and area 5. And Castillo and Guile would be up in 2022 like they would be under the orange plan, and Brownell and Wright would be up in area 4 in 2024 because that's when their terms expire. So those are the 3 options that are in front of you. So my last slide is just to see if there are any questions and if there might be one of these particular plans that you prefer. And if so, if you might want to see revisions to that, that would be good to know as well. I also want to make sure you're aware that there is an interactive review map, the link to which is on the slide. And you can go to that and review the draft maps more extensively. You can zoom in for more detail or zoom out to see the entire district. Because I know with the images I posted on the PowerPoint, they're very much focused on the community of Cayucos itself because that's where the vast majority of the population is. But I realize that the district is larger and has its full extent goes out further north and east. So you can see the full extent if you go to the interactive review map. So thank you for your attention and happy to take your questions.
Board members have any questions? No.
About this. Ron? Yeah.
We usually don't need these things. First off, I got a lot of questions about, I think people were keen, is it David? Daniel, sorry. I got a lot of calls with questions about, and I think people were keying off of San Luis Board of Supervisors area changes and this idea that there would be staggered starting elections because if you change the areas, if people moved into a new area, they might have get to vote as early as 2 years. Some would still be on 4, and some would be have to be 6 years before they got to choose their representative. And what I was telling him, and I wanted to verify this, since in any of these plans, since it hasn't been done before, it would still be on the same election cycle. That in 22, only those people who would be up for election the next time, they just do a 4-year term. And then the people who were up in 24, it would be the same thing. So you didn't get the staggered issue. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So people who end up in areas 1, 2, and 3, if we go with that election sequence, they would vote in 2 years, and people who live in areas 4 and 5 would vote in 2024. So the longest that one could possibly wait to vote for these trustees would be until 2024.
Okay, thank you. That answers about 10 people's questions there. So, and the other thing I'd like to say is, and this may not be popular, but at least right now, I'm looking at the green plan, and you all get to keep your seats and not compete against each other. And I would put out that that one of the things that I think has made things rough was when we had a wholesale change on the board, and we dropped continuity and experience. Now you guys are getting some experience, and some of it's tough, but having the continuity and learning from all the different things that are happening and learning how these contracts work and all that, I think is important. But in that, given the experience you're having, I think this could lead to more moderate decision-making, more thoughtful, more measured working together. But on the other side of the coin, given the change to the 7 o'clock start time and opening up the number of candidates, you could easily face opponents, but that again is a way to move towards moderation. You're going to be, someone may oppose you and they'll have a different side, but I think it moves both sides towards more of a center. And I always say, we all love this school, and we have a lot more in common than we don't. So we need to use that as a base for making choices. So anyway, thank you.
This is the time for questions right now.
What's that?
The time for questions.
Oh,
Anybody else have any questions? Okay.
Okay, question. Can I
My question is, if you have 2 people running in one of the districts and nobody runs in another district, can that person that lost go in the district that okay.
More arm twisting for candidates. Somebody gets appointed or what? If nobody runs for the district, what happens?
Yeah.
You want to talk about?
Well, the potential is you don't have somebody in a district,
Yeah, so you'd have to appoint somebody who would probably be.
or go out and knock on doors and try to get somebody.
And that's happened a lot of times. Somebody, superintendent or other board members have had to twist arms to get.
I have a question and you might have asked it, I'm sorry for repeating it. Oh, Daniel. Hey, Daniel.
Hi.
Hi. So if you already said this, I apologize. If you have to repeat yourself. Can you only vote? So say we just, for argument's sake, say we go with the green plan. And then so Val and I would be up in 2024. Can only the people from District 5 vote in 2024 for those 2 seats?
No.
I'm sorry, in 2024.
The people who live in area 4 would vote in 2024, and the people who live in area 5 would vote in 2024.
Right.
There
so
would
you
be,
could-
there would be separate races, but they would take place at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, can people in District 1 vote in 2024?
If you were to go with the green plan,
Yeah,
then someone who lives in Area 1 would vote in 2022. And then their next election would be 2026.
and how are we going, or you, or whoever, going to educate the community on this new voting? Because this is going to be very interesting how this plays out. I mean, you'll be lucky to. Thank you, Daniel.
Any more questions for Daniel? Okay. Very friendly.
Well, the question I have it asks, what plan do you prefer? Are we not on that bullet yet? On this part of the public hearing, is it just a question, or is it, can we say what plan we prefer to?
So this time is to take questions, but also to take feedback and input. So if you want to give that now, you're welcome to.
Okay, I understand the green plan preserves the board, and I understand with continuing those positions, but I have a problem with the green plan. If you look at Area 1, just has that little kind of rectangle in between Area 2. And if that's the whole reason is just to preserve the board that we have, I'm not for that. Seems like the orange plan, and I'm not basing this on continue, but if you just look at geographically, the shapes are better. When I was on the advisory council, we always were like, hey, what district are you from? Well, if you're on this side of the street, that side of the street. So that little nose, or whatever you want to call that, the little part coming off of the green plan in Area 1, I'm not a fan of. Because you're going to have neighbors, oh, hey, somebody on this side of the street, then you're going to go down the street, have a different district, and continue to the end of the street. So one street is going to start with Area 2, go down to your neighbor, hey, you're in Area 1, keep going down the street, and you're in Area 2. I don't like that, so I like the orange plan.
Okay. May I get your name, please, just for the record?
Carrie Friend.
My name is Carrie Friend.
Okay, thanks.
We're gonna have it on. Anybody else? Yeah, you can see on the orange and the yellow plan, they have a little sliver on each side too. This time the sliver's out of the middle of the green. So, okay.
But it's on the edge, this is a through street.
Look at 3. That's everywhere.
Okay, we have to vote to- we're not really talking about- Okay, it's just a hearing, right? Okay. Just a hearing? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so, any more questions, comments? Ready to move on? Wonderful. Okay, shall we close the public hearing? You I get a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on the redistricting.
Second.
Okay, we are closed. Okay, we're moving on. If we have any presentations, anybody here for the ASB, Associated Student Body?
Daniel, thank you. Any more questions for Daniel?
Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, thank you.
See-
I'll see you next month.
Next month.
Thank you.
Bye.
A little bit of ASB updates. They're planning, there's only a few kids in ASB this year, but they're planning on the dance at the end of March, hoping to have it inside this time. They're planning on having pizza, and when you go get your pizza, you get a little stamp on your hand so they know you've already had your dinner. So they've got some really great ideas. Our PE teacher, Michaela, is going to be the DJ again, so she'll start taking, music, check it out, see if it's appropriate. probably right before that. They've got next week is our Spirit Week, so there are 4 different things during the week, because we don't have school Monday, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there's all kinds of different things to perhaps wear or with your buddies to wear. And that flyer went home, I think, yesterday. Anyway, they continue to do a lot of fun little activities. They're getting ready to do it's kind of on the down low, but it's a human game out here that normally you play on a board, so it'll be really fun. They're going to dress up, and there's actually some rules and some words that you must say or can't say, and some acting to do. So, and I'll move on to the drama production is coming up at the end of February. It is Aladdin. They're working really hard on that. With Victoria, our class is doing the backdrops. We have Kayla Gren. It's the 20. Hold on. 3 days. And it's the 24th, 25th, 26th at 7 o'clock. February. Oh, no, not quite ready. They're still getting their costumes ready and learning their line. But they're working really hard, and you see parts of it here, but lots of stuff going on. So. Any questions? Okay, no.
Right, the parent teacher association.
PTA. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Roberta Held. I'm this year's current PTA vice president, and we had a very successful fall carnival. Thanks in part to some people that came in and spent some money. Thank you. We appreciate it. Following the fall carnival, we had Santa's workshop. We normally plan to serve 70 children, and usually there's some give and take. Some sign up, some don't. Some show up, some extras come. But we serve 69 kids, and that's the most that I've seen since I've been helping with it for the last 4 years. And it was great. It was great to have the community back together and for the kids to be together and doing something fun and creative. We're back to popping popcorn on Fridays. We do that the first Friday of every month. Our popcorn machine is temperamental, but we make it work. And one of our current members is proposing and working on a clothing swap. So the idea there is for the school to come together and maybe ski bibs or jackets or snow boots or whatever, a whole host of things, but things that that could be exchanged, brought to the school, and we would do a clothing exchange. So Amy Armstrong is working on that right now, and hopefully we'll get that pulled together. And that's about as exciting as it gets. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Can you demonstrate the popcorn machine in a board meeting?
We did bring root beer floats once at Val Wright's request. I'm not sure if you remember that. But sure, we could bring the popcorn machine out. I think it needs a little work right now, so I'm not so sure when that might happen, but sure, we can bring the popcorn machine out. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, next we have the health and safety committee.
That's, I know she's online, but I can't get comments from her. However, Nessa's doing a fabulous job with our safety committee, making sure that we are all watching what we're doing, not tripping over cords, etc. I'm looking out here, she would be appalled at some of the stuff that's out here right now. Sorry, Nessa. But we continue to have monthly topics that she shares with us, talks with us at our staff meetings, and makes sure that we are kind of all on board and understanding how important it is to pay attention, really, and stay safe at school. The safety committee for the whole county, all the safety committees are planning or hoping to meet together again, I think February, towards the end of February. And I think that it's up at Cambria, maybe sending messages. It's a place where they all get to meet each other, meet the other safety committees from the different schools, talk about, the numbers that they have, percentages of accidents, et cetera, at their schools. And usually there's some kind of a speaker that comes in and discusses that, or a fun speaker too. There's been some really fun magicians even. But it's just a nice place to go mingle with other schools and see what their plans look like too, and share ideas. So thank you, Nessa, for keeping that going, and for all of the members in that group as well. I forgot during ASB, but this is one of our classes that Ms. Tomek has taken over from last year's project design class. And so Ms. Tomek is in charge of that, and they are hosting a children's clothing drive. We shared some of the flyers with you. If you don't have one, I have them up here. But it benefits the Children's Resource Network and the Estero Bay Kindness Coalition. So if you have any new or gently used children's clothing and shoes, bring them to school, and we'll get them to Helen so she can get them to those groups. So really encouraging more this year for our classes and our groups to do some community outreach. In the beginning of the year at Christmas time, Mrs. Brown and Ms. Tomek also did a drive for the seniors in the area, so collected food items to take to the senior centers. So we're continuing to do that. The next thing I believe is the collecting items for Woods Humane Society, so towels and food and anything that they need. They'll give us a list. So.
Okay, we're moving on to items number 8, information discussion. Do we have any board member reports?
I do.
Okay.
I used to teach at San Luis Coastal, and they had something called a board walk, in which the board members were allowed to go to a school, go into a classroom and observe. They weren't allowed to take part in anything within the classroom, nor could they make suggestions on how to make it better, or why do you do what you're doing. Just a chance to see it. So I said when I got on the board, that's what I would do. I was really excited. Then the pandemic hit, and I didn't think it was a good idea. But yesterday and today, I did a board walk. And here's what I saw. I went into a world history class, 7th grade. And I was impressed with how the students were behaving, but more importantly, I was impressed with their typing skills. I remember in those days when I was in 7th grade, I typed like this with 2 fingers. They were using true typing skills, looking at the screen as if it was nothing. That impressed me. I saw a PE class. Remember those days when I was in PE, we did jumping jacks and ran in a circle, that kind of thing. Not anymore. They're doing stretching exercises that cause pain in me just watching. Outstanding cooperation in the gym for the teacher and an assistant. But then came lunch. And I saw students cooperating with each other. I saw 2 students stopping a basketball game when another student fell, and they looked like they were hurt. Naturally, the student who fell said, I'm okay, I'm okay. But the 2 that helped the person who fell weren't quite as sure and made sure before they continued the game. I highly recommend that you do a boardwalk and just watch. I was really impressed with this school.
No shoot.
I don't.
We don't have a superintendent's report. Okay. LCAP updates. Yeah, lovely construction update.
So if you look, well, I can't see the dark anyway. It's all of the main flooring and the main digging and the main posts going in is all finished, which you can never see in construction. You always think, oh, nothing's going on. But now we have the above ground construction going on. So it's kind of nice to see. The kids can even see a little better, where the doors are going to be, where the windows, it really is a building. We've really enjoyed our relationship with the guys that are working out here. Sometimes we get a little upset that they're not working fast enough, but rain does hamper some things. We've changed a couple of things that weren't noticed early on. So that's been nice to work with them, making sure that we have all the windows that actually open. For a while, they were closed and not able to open, so those were changed. Shortly, we're going to be moving the 4th and 5th graders out of those classrooms so they can do the HVAC system and the gas lines through the roof area or the attic area of the buildings, and we don't want the kids in there digging holes and running around up there. So we're going to move them into the gym probably. And it's been a little loud. It's distracting for the kids, but they're doing the best they can, and we move them outside when we can. And they've been troopers. Everybody's been troopers out there, and because it can get kind of loud sometimes with all the nail guns and hammers and big trucks coming through. Haven't had as many big trucks coming through lately, but it's an adventure. It's an adventure. It's supposed to be done the very first. We're behind for sure. Right now, they're promising the first part of April.
Okay, move on to the consent agenda. To approve the consent agenda. Is there anybody who wants to vote anything else?
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Roll call. Susan Brownell,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Eva,
Aye.
Chris Castillo,
Aye.
Pete Schuler,
Aye. We do have one donation for the Women's Wine Club. Wonderful. For $750. So thank you for the Women's Wine Club. Good job. Keep it up. Our next action item is superintendent contract, shared superintendent services contract. We have a couple of people who would like to. First, we do a motion to approve the donations.
So moved.
I'll second.
Susan Brownell,
Aye.
Bill Wright,
Aye.
Steve Bell,
Aye.
Chris Castillo,
Aye.
Pete Schuler,
Aye. We have 3 people who would like to speak on 10-2. Susan Mathias, still here? Yeah.
Thank you. Last month, the superintendent stated at the time the discussion of this contract was tabled, and I quote, "I don't know how that's going to work." I would suggest to him that it's not going to work. It's not going to work well at all. For the past month, many of us have become curious as to why his salary was being discussed now, and who came up with the idea that he deserves a substantial raise. I find it odd that there seems to be a rush to discuss a change in contract that runs until 2024. Getting information from Cayucos School's website and the information they supply to the County Office of Ed's website is unprofessional, cumbersome, and seems to be designed to squelch participation rather than encourage it. In addition, after reviewing the recent agendas, I can find no record of a request for public input on this issue. Although his current contract includes increases for cost of living, he is asking for more. A quick view looks like a 13% raise. A deeper analysis makes it apparent that he would be getting much more than that from Cayucos. I'm also hearing that the proposed contract is totally skewed in favor of the Coast District. Why is this happening? Can any of you please explain to us why you think this is a good idea? It's not. Does this board really think it's proper to push this through without public discussion, an analysis, and an explanation to the stakeholders? His contract isn't up. Why rush? Why can't the facts be clear, available, and discussed in public before the board makes a decision? Keep in mind that meetings have just recently started to be recorded so that stakeholders have access. It would seem to me that if we're going to discuss any contracts, it would be the teacher's contract, which I believe is up in 6 months. From a budgeting standpoint, it makes sense to have an understanding of where that contract is headed before rewriting a superintendent's contract that is 2 years from maturing. If the current superintendent is unhappy and quits, as happened before, the County Office of Education will simply appoint a temporary replacement. I can attest that the operations of the school continued to run smoothly the last time this happened. I believe that the last time we shared a superintendent, Cayucos paid 30, that's 30 of the total salary. I think this is a very inopportune time to discuss giving our part-time superintendent a raise. Please don't rush this through simply because he wants it. For the last couple of months, the board has listened to the stakeholders and has made a welcome shift towards transparency and accountability. Please don't give up on that progress now. Thank you.
Yes, Erica Torres.
Torres, parent at Cayucos Elementary School. I too would like an explanation as to why the shared services agreement and the superintendent contract are being reviewed at this time. As Susan mentioned, they are valid until 2024. So I think there's a lot of confusion amongst the community about why we're reviewing those at this time. Who's asking for a review of these contracts and for what purpose? Who authored these contracts? Have the Cayucos Elementary School lawyers review these contracts prior to them being presented to the board to vote on? Upon review of the documents, it appears the only difference in the contracts is to increase the step pay of our superintendent's salary, which appears to be nearly a 13% increase in pay. Who is requesting this? When Cayucos Elementary School teachers' contracts are up for renewal later this year, will they also be given a 13% pay raise? I would hope so if our superintendent is receiving that amount. If a review of these contracts at this time is for the purpose of increasing our superintendent's salary, it is my hope that the board would reject such a request and instead consider allocating any additional funds to teacher bonuses or pay raises, perhaps additional time for our school nurse on campus, and or invest in our children, for example, foreign language classes, a more robust STEAM courses, or perhaps additional mental health services due to the stress of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you.
And Ron Wilson.
It's going to be tough. Well, first of all, I want to make a comment. Well, it's a little topic, but not really. I don't know. I hope all of you read all of the correspondence, and I think that them dropping 5 minutes before you're going to have your meeting, or whatever the cutoff time, puts the pressure on you that you should read all of them, and that doesn't seem like enough time when you're prepping for closed session. That's just where I am. But in those correspondence, I had 35 plus when I left home, and 5 of those were supporting Scott, which is great to hear. But they said regardless of the pay raise, and so you had 30 plus that were against the pay raise, and these other people don't care. So I think, that's a significant number. And I just want to say that, the statement I'm going to make is not personal. I know, everybody on this side of the table pretty well, and I hope that I'll know you well. But this is a business. We have the biggest business. You guys have the biggest business in Cayucos, and these decisions have to be made with fiduciary responsibility. And that, as far as I'm concerned, that isn't happening. And I think I have the experience to know that. Just for example, if this was about Ann Hubbard or Jim Brescher, I'd be saying the same thing. And if it was any other board, I'd be saying the same thing. So it's not about you, it's about your decisions. So anyway, there are a lot of questions. I'm going to jump around because I don't have a lot of time. First of all, the superintendent contract predates it gives a really clear definition of what the superintendent's job is. And it says he will be exclusive professional services for the district for a period, and it's 225 duty days, and that goes back to 2016. So it predates this shared service agreement. And though there have been changes made in the pay off step, it's still what was there, and it has something about it being exclusive. And it says that in the contract, something has to be provided within to change any of the things. And exclusive 225 days is pretty clear, and there's nothing in the contract that provides for an exception. And this is a huge exception with the shared service contract. And if you're going to have something like that, it has to be in the contract. Second of all, there was a lot of confusion about what we're voting on, and I think there's even confusion on the board here. It says that you're voting on the shared services, or SSSA, as some put it, and then there's this, you're voting on his contract. Well, first of all, you couldn't do two items at once like this. You can vote these up or down, one up, one down, both down. So you can't vote. It's not a single item. But the fact of the matter is, that the old contract is in there. The dates have been changed, which screwed everything up. But that's Exhibit A. That's Exhibit A. There's referrals back and forth. Okay. There's the difference between these, you go from 688 a day to 978 a day because you're working half time. Makes absolutely no sense at all. And there was a big question about. Can I ask for a little more time, because I have some facts that answer people's questions. We're almost done. It's under the board. They can do this. I often did it when.
I'll let you close it up, wrap it up.
Okay. Well, people want information, and I've done a lot of research that nobody else seems to be doing, including this board. Ask why this is happening now. This is called the December dump. You throw everything in December, 10 days before Christmas, because everybody's busy. There's references in this contract, the shared services, to Exhibit B. You have to provide Exhibit B. Does anybody know what Exhibit B is? You don't have it attached here. You reference something. You can't do that. You can't put out a contract for the public to see. You know what Exhibit B is. Can you have a copy of it here for us? You can answer me. This is the time when we can go back and forth. Okay, good luck with that. It wasn't on the website. Okay, thank you, Ron.
Okay. Well, are you still on with it? Susan, I'll let you answer that question.
What's that?
I'll let you answer that question if you found Exhibit B.
Is that the superintendent? Commissioner service agreement?
I believe so.
Which point was it on? Which
Okay,
one?
well, you guys have the contract there, I could file for you, I mean, this is what you're supposed to be talking
in the
about.
letter that I wrote.
Yeah.
Tells you exactly where it is.
I mean,
Okay.
guys, you should be having a discussion about this.
It's too late right now, none of us
All
can
right,
see
well, we don't have it.
One person.
I know.
Yeah, you want to respond? I'll let you respond.
What was the question?
Okay, there are two in this agreement with Coast. It mentions several times an Exhibit A and Exhibit B. It took me a lot of readings to figure out the employment contract is part of this package is actually Exhibit A, which is supposed to be labeled as such, so you don't have to go around and around.
Okay, agree, they're not labeled.
Okay, so where's Exhibit B?
I'm not reading what you're reading, but I'm assuming.
Okay, well, let's.
Okay. All right, that's it for that then now. So do we have any motions on this next item?
Yeah, I make a motion that we increase superintendent's contract $4,200 for the year. I want to make it clear what the amount of money we're talking about because you've been throwing a lot of numbers out there. It's $4,200. And I want to give a little, I'll do that during discussion.
I'll second that.
Now we can have discussion. In 2019, when Scott came in, he deferred his increase. He took 0% increase so we could give it to the teachers. 0. And over that time, 2019, 20, 21, 22, the teachers received 13%. He received 8. The 4,200 is 5% that gets him the exact same increase that the teachers received over that time. It's $4,200. So all these numbers you're throwing out there, I don't know where you're getting them. That is the fact. $4,200.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just kind of reiterate what Steve said. Basically, again, it's a big number when you look at it. You have to take into account we're paying half of that. So if you look at it, it's a 10% increase. We pay 5, Coast pays 5. That's the 10%. Or it's 10% on our 50%. That's the number. There's step ups. Yes, it is. There's step ups. So when I started looking at these salaries, teachers and schools work differently. They have, when I first started looking at these, I was looking at the fact that they get a step increase, right? So schools and teachers don't really refer to that as a raise. They get so for example, the contract that teachers come in on, it's 3% every year. That's not considered a raise, that's a step up. Then negotiated or raises. So what Steve said was right. So and I agree, teachers need to be well compensated and they need to be taken care of, but they have realized a 13% increase over 3 years, superintendent 8% over 3.5 years. So since that shared service was put in place, that's the number. And I just want to point out a few other things. So when Scott was hired here, he inherited a budget that was in a structural deficit. What that means is there's no way you're going to grow yourself out of it. There was a deficit. He solved that issue. Ever since I've been on the board, there has been a balanced and healthy budget to the point that we were able to self-fund this classroom. That classroom is $1 million. Okay. And when he started looking at financing for it, I know because we talked about this, he was just upset about the costs to go out and get the loan, legal fees, everything. So self-funding, because we were in a big budget, that saved $200,000. So there's many things that he's done. It's been a difficult year. But I feel that, especially when you look at some of his correspondence, there's people who just want to see him gone. I think if we gave him $1, that would be too much for some people. But what this increase is, it's $4,200 because his contract ends through June. So there's 5 months left. That's that number. That's what it is through this year. Then that 10% going into the next year would equal $10,300. But the other thing that takes place December 30th of this year, 2022, at that point, Coast pays half of his health benefits until he's 65. So if he was to retire after a year and a half, that amount would be $103,000. However, by December of next year, Coast will pay half of that. That's $51,600. So even with the raises, it would still be a net savings in a year and a half time of $37,000 versus being on the hook for the whole retirement until he's 65. So anyway, I'm in favor of it. I think he's done a great job. I think there's been a lot of comments about what he's done. I think there's things he said that probably he regrets saying, but I think everybody has those kind of cases. And no, I lost my thought. Anyway. What I was going to say is basically the complaints I've heard about him aren't really job related. Okay, so I'm not hearing that he's derelict in his duties. He made bad decisions. What I'm hearing is that he's not on campus. Not on campus enough. That's what I got out of those letters.
I think one of the things that's been very difficult for any superintendent is the pandemic. And to have a principal leave up at Coast Union High School just prior to school starting made that difficulty far more prevalent. And so Scott decided that he would be acting principal, waiting for the opportunity in the springtime to get the best choice possible for a principal. That was a mistake. Question about it. Because that particular position as a principal at a high school is far more demanding. Couple that with another problem that I see that a superintendent has in this school is that he has an office on the campus. I dare you to look at any district in this area that has a superintendent that easily accessible to staff, parents, kids. I would dare you to have a kid in San Luis Coastal point out who the superintendent is, Dr. Prater. They would have no idea who he is, even if he walked on the campus. But at this school, they know who their superintendent is. And they can go to that superintendent and they can talk to him. I think it's been a really difficult position for anyone in any school district. And I support the job that he's done. He works hard, not just here at school, but after school, just like a teacher does when they prepare for a class. Excuse me? I can't hear you. Why don't you step up here if you want to talk to me? I'm trying, excuse me. I'm trying to
We've
tell my
already done public
position.
comment. You had to get a card up here.
Why don't we, but he's yelling at me to come up there now, so do you want me to, am I allowed to or not?
Please let him have the floor when he has the floor. Be
I
respectful
didn't
of that.
stop him from having it.
Thank you.
The one comment I wanted to make, because a lot of the correspondence referred to the teachers, and I think it was already said, so I don't want to be redundant, but it is part of why I want to vote in favor of it as well, because he blanketly, and there was absolutely not one of you talking about, or like, let's look in detail and pick apart the teachers, and did they deserve a raise? That I think he gave him within the last 12 months, didn't take one himself. Which thank you for doing the numbers on that, Steve and Chris. So bringing him up to the 13% that the teachers were brought up to, I have no problem with it.
Can I mention one more thing?
Sure.
Yeah. I want everybody to think back. I want you to just for a moment. Prior to our August board meeting, when we passed the let them breathe, and it really started a negative time in this town. And next month we rescinded it. And some comments were made tonight about let them breathe. That, you know, Scott, you talked to Scott about it, we're upset because he wouldn't let, Scott had nothing to do with it. That's why he couldn't do anything about it. That was a board decision. Somebody said we got to get control and he's telling us what to do, and that's absolutely false. If you have a complaint about what Scott's doing, it's us, it's our fault. It's us. He's doing what we've directed him to do. So you just need to understand you're blaming the wrong person if you think that those things were Scott's initiation. He gives us input when we make suggestions. We talk about things at the board meetings. And I love the fact there's so many people here tonight, but prior to let them breathe, nobody was coming to meetings. What did I tell you? Nobody was coming. We had maybe 5 people show up. And one was for the ASB report, one was for the PTA, always showed up, and Jessica Peterson was always here. So, I mean, we're in a different era now, but I want you to remember back before that August, before that let them breathe resolution. Because in those 3.5 years, I never got a complaint about Scott. And he didn't change all of a sudden as of August. But I think part of his change that has come has been because of, honestly, some, I'm not saying all, but some of the really ugly emails that he was receiving or we were receiving, but ours weren't half as bad as his. And I was pretty shocked at some of the reaction, and I go back to the COVID and let them breathe and masking and anti-vaxxers and things, and it really has split this town apart, and it has split, I think, how people view Scott because of those things. And I apologize because I'm the one who voted on it. I support the let them breathe. I don't want the kids not to have masks, but that's not the way it is. There are laws out there right now that we're going by, and it's not Scott's fault. I watched him have to rewrite curriculum week after week because the changes kept coming in from the health department or from the state or from the feds. And every time we're talking a lot of work to write these things to comply with schools and the law and the code. And he'd get it done and we'd present it and boom, we get another email that says, now you got to do this. It's a horrible time. It's the worst time I've ever been in my life. I'm 73. Never been anything like this last 2 years. I don't think any of us have. I hate I see it, what it's doing to everybody. I hate what it's doing to this community. But it isn't Scott's fault. And yes, he had some outbursts. And he's been counseled on those. And yet, the one thing I heard tonight more than anything else was community relations. What we're really talking about is the name calling and some of the ugly verbal communications that we've had. I just want us to think back and see if we can't get back to giving people some room to improve, give some people room to succeed. Because the one thing we have heard over and over from the meetings was how great the teachers are doing, how great the principal's doing, how great the staff's doing. And I'm going to tell you what, if you had a bad leader, you wouldn't have those three things. Would not have them. Wow, wouldn't have them. So I'll just leave it with that. Thank you.
So we vote on it?
Other question?
Well, what's that?
Call for the question.
Well, does Pete, do you have any comments?
Well, I'll just say this, and I've talked to Scott before this, and I have been on record not being a fan of the agreement that we have. And, but I do believe Scott, barring these last 3 months, has been a fantastic superintendent for us. But hopefully we can get through this tough time, and some apologies can be made. We can get everybody back together the way we should be. I think it's a lot of it. Well, what I've talked to Scott about was last spring, we talked about communication, and positive communication is something we need to work on. And I think as a board, we've been really good with each other about that. But so we're pretty good on this, and I think we'll call for a vote.
Steve, your motion was to increase the superintendent's contract $4,200. Is that per year?
Is that per year?
That's what it equates to for this.
For the salary, current salary step?
For this year.
Right. The 4,200 equates to the fact that there's 5 months remaining for this period. So the proposal would be to adopt the new salary schedule.
That was not the motion.
And the next year, we will.
For step 3, that increases to 10,300.
So I will rescind my motion. I'll rescind the second.
I'll rescind the second.
So now make the motion.
All right, I make the motion that we accept the proposed new salary schedule that's in the shared service agreement.
Second that.
Say that again. Proposed new salary schedule, new shared services.
Adopt the new salary schedule that's in the revised shared services agreement.
Adopt new salary schedule and new shared services agreement.
Yes.
Motion by Steve. Second.
Motion by Chris.
Right.
Roll call. Val Wright.
Aye.
Steve Guile.
Aye.
Chris Castillo.
Aye.
Pete Schuler.
Nay.
Susan Brownell.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it. Yeah, yay. Go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll try and get back inside for next month.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, no. Good job. Yeah.